This has been a very big day. Big. Do my glasses look tinted? They sort of do. I'm highly against transition glasses. So I have just finished up the trial for today, which is, I don't even know what it is. It's just the truth of the matter. It's 9:20 because I have children, and these people are calling me children, and they need things from me. Like I had to go get dinner. I had to go pick up a sub from Westover, one of our favorite places. Then I had to go to the CVS and try to find prescriptions. Then I went to Blunt's. I never know where the prescriptions are. Spent $100 on allergy medicine because, you know, that's what you do for people. And I've got a fire going, and I've just finished up for the day. Fortunately for you and I both, yay, Connie, come on over. Fortunately for all of us, the prosecution is the only team that got to talk today. We call the prosecution the offense, and we call the defense the defense. It should be offense and defense. So anyway, get ready. I need some energy. You just finished my other video. I just did a quick subscriber video because I had to get turnip green 9-year-old Amos to bed. So today, I would say the big takeaway, if you've been watching the Murdaugh trial, it's getting close to the end. Where is Big T? Where is my attorney husband, who has all sorts of opinions? He plays tennis on Wednesday nights. This is his night. He drives about 200 miles on Wednesday, going to courtrooms, and then he plays tennis with his friends. So that's good. Can we call the defense? No, we are not using bad language because then I get suspended. I'm always suspended on Facebook. The offense came out strong. It was a very long offense, but I was telling my friend Seton Tucker, who has been at the trial most every day, she was like, it was just very long. And I was like, but you have to think about, nobody had notes. These people were not taking notes, right? The jurors, they had been listening for 27 freaking days. They needed to get support. Debbie, I don't think you're a subscriber. I don't see the blue mark by your name. Maybe it's gone. It's blue. Been waiting for you this evening. And I'm here. Maybe I just can't see marks. Oh, no, Diane's here. Anyway, it was pretty good. So the jurors need to hear all this because they are like, I hadn't heard anything. Oh, God, you're watching videos. So I'm currently have a friend who is helping me put all my content from Facebook over on YouTube. I don't know if that's good or bad, but there's a lot of good old videos over there. I mean, some of them, I'm like, I look so young. Okay, ready? Okay. Here's what the offense says. Liar, well, he didn't say this. Liar, thief, motive, and opportunity. Liar, thief, motive, and opportunity. I had a few big points. I didn't like, in general, just talk about a little bit in general, I don't think those jurors liked him using that nickname. The nicknames, Popo, Roro, Mags, Bubs, Bus, Paw. I don't think they like that. Now, do I know this? No. But it just seems to me that would be like you are trying. I thought one thing the offense did was they really made a point of saying, he made a point of saying to the jury, he is trying to do things to gain your sympathy. I like that he spelled that out. He had a freaking PowerPoint with words on it. I loved it. You could see it if you're a visual learner. They have been listening and listening and listening. It's kind of awesome to see the words personally for me, because all of us leave every day and we can watch the news, we can rewatch things, we can listen to a 911 call, we can go through our notes, whatever. They haven't had the ability to do that. So I thought it was good. The other thing that I thought was not good, Alec Murdaugh has been touching his head incessantly. Touching his head when they're talking about the gunshot wound, touching, rubbing, touching. Now, I'm not any forensic psychologist, but I thought that was really odd. And I don't think he was doing that on purpose. It was almost like when he was doing some of these confessions, well, they weren't supposed to be confessions, they were supposed to be interviews, and he's shaking his head no, yes, as he's saying no. Heidi says he's not a killer. The last big takeaway is that his checking account, at the time that everything went down, his checking account, can we please talk about this, had negative $347,000 in it. And the offense did say, he called it the most generous overdraft policy ever conceived. Negative $347,000? And they charged him a $5 overdraft fee. That is a true story. Debbie, I am now a body language expert. I'm calling myself one. Negative $347,000? If I have like negative 4, I get a letter, they're calling me from the bank. Hello, your account is down $4. I mean, it's like the electric bills. If I don't pay my electric bill, Edenton loves to turn off my electricity. They don't anymore now that they figured out I've had like an IV, so I think they felt like maybe bad for me. But my electricity will go out. That's a true story. And I will like call my neighbors and be like, is your electricity out? And they're like, no. I was sitting here with Nurse Gina. This isn't today. This is a few months ago. And I was like, I wonder if I didn't pay my electric bill. I was out of town. It was like 5 minutes. They just turn it off. Well, then you see in the paper, so-and-so owes the electric company $112,000. I'm like, well, I can tell you who doesn't owe the electric company anything is me, because they cut my electricity off. Ain't no bank going to let you have negative $347,000. So those were just some big takeaways. If that's all you can listen to and you just need to giggle a tiny bit tonight, there you go. I've given you my... Hold on. Do I have a weird filter on this light? The TV. Oh, no. Oh, it keeps turning on. It's so distracting. What is that? I don't even know where that is now. It feels sick. Okay. I got some notes. Now, I'm not going to read. So here was my biggest mistake for the day. I thought that we were going to have offense, talk, and then the defense. So I was like, I'm going to do this so I can have comments and I can compare them. It no happen. Nope. No siree. It did not happen. So the offense, Creighton Waters, starts out strong. On June 7th, 2021, at Moselle, Maggie and Paul were brutally murdered. Only one person had the motive, the means, and the opportunity. Alec Murdaugh avoided accountability all his life. He was dependent on money. He stole from his brother Randy, his clients. He had fast-talked his whole life. And finally, basically, everything went to pot, which was pretty good and true. Can you explain how it only takes one jury member? Well, I just know that's the law. Yeah, if one jury member doesn't agree, it's a hung jury. I think the idea of the premise, and we could ask Thomas, I think the idea of that is that you don't ever want anyone innocent going to jail, which clearly has happened. So what did he do with all the money? Someone said there's no way he spent it all on pills. Well, I don't know how much he was being charged for pills. I said, who runs in his drug rehab expert. And I said, can you take whatever it was he said, 1,000 milligrams of pills a day? And you know what his response was? That is an ungodly amount. Impossible. So nobody even addressed that, which I think is super interesting that we didn't hear that. Right? You could not take 1,000 milligrams. It's impossible. So there is a juror that has had a blanket over her head. Today, I think she was sleeping. She has tissue in her ears. She is an alternate, I was told this afternoon. So that should make everybody feel better. The alternate juror. The alternate juror. Is under a blade. Wasn't he putting money back into the account he had stolen from? Yeah, so that's how the offense described it. They said it's basically a Ponzi scheme. He is stealing money. Well, to me, you've heard the expression robbing Peter to pay Paul. Well, he was robbing Paul to pay Peter. Quite literally. And everything for him, it's kind of going in this pinnacle, upside down pinnacle. Pressure is coming down. So you have to think about, he was getting money and then he would spend money. More money, more money, more money. In 2018, he set up this fake Forge account, which was really important, because then he could have money just directly given to him. Then the boat case came. The boat case was going to be a problem. Mark Tinsley, who Buster was accused of giving the, finger during the trial, was seeking boat recovery and filed this motion to compel. The hearing for the motion was going to be June 10th. On June 7th is the day that Maggie and Paul were killed. And Alec said, well, it didn't matter. I didn't care about the motion to compel. Nothing was going to happen. Well, that's easy to say now, because what he does is changes the story to fit his lie. But what really happened is they're killed and the hearing gets canceled. It's canceled. No more. So after that, nobody's after him about money. Mark Tinsley said the case has changed because of sympathy. He's able to borrow $250,000 from Johnny Parker. He borrows another $350,000 from Palmetto Bank. So you have negative money in your checking account and people lend you money because they feel bad for him. Yes, I thought that was an interesting thing too, Deanne. So his partner said that night, I saw things that night that haven't been brought up in this courtroom. And I don't know what it would be. I'm not sure. Hi, Joan. I'm not sure. The next time he gets into trouble, they're back into looking at this money. Buster was protruding his middle finger yesterday. Oh, is this really live? Yes, it is. September 3rd, he's going to resign. September 4th, Chris Wilson goes to see him. Now, Chris Wilson is Chris Wilson has been burned alive by Alec Murdaugh. Chris Wilson goes to see him, and then the shooting occurs. And the offense says, oh, and look, he drew this sketch. He drew a sketch of a person that didn't exist. Because if the shooting occurs, he buys some more time, right? Buys some more time. Well, the time didn't last it wasn't that long. Because before too long, it came out that he had done that to himself or hired somebody or whatever you think. Well, yes, I'm from Rocky Mount. That's right, Lynn. At this point, the offense breaks into the rules about what you have to know as a juror. And I thought this was interesting. He said, the jury, you are judges of fact, you're the judges of credibility, and you will judge the believability of the witnesses. You believe a testimony. Hey, Vanessa, you're a new subscriber? Vanessa, I don't see your subscriber button, but this is a big video. I just did a subscriber video before this. Yes, I saw that. Oh, I know, Marie, I saw that. Okay, this is, on big videos, I just talk at you. On subscriber videos, it's more like a conversation. There's too many people on here to have a conversation with. It's like my family at dinner. He says, doesn't matter if it's an expert, if you believe the testimony. Circumstantial or direct evidence is no different. If you believe the evidence, that's enough. I thought that was really interesting. I thought that's enough. Murder. What is murder? Malice aforethought. Malice, intentional doing of a wrongful act, general malignant recklessness. I'm not saying it. Before thought could be in that second. So even if you didn't plan it forever, in that second you think, I'm going to do this. And another thing I didn't know, but I was asking Thomas about this, voluntary intoxication is not a defense for an action. So you're high on whatever. Too bad. So sad. Hey, Kathy, welcome. Alec had lost his insurance, which I missed that part because of the Satterfield case. So he got all that money from the Satterfield case, but then he kept it, right? So that kind of undoes it. And then he had gotten some more money from the Ferris case, $792,000. So that kind of goes back to June. He spent that in 2 months. 2 months. They go through his line of credit. The offense brought up this really interesting part. They took the jury on a tour of Moselle, and I didn't watch about that. Fill us in about Maggie's DNA on the wheel. I saw it in slides. So what I really took away more, Krista, from that is that there was a Polaris wheel mark on Maggie's leg, and that Alec shot Paul first, is what the offense is saying, and shot him in the chest, I think assuming he would go down or die, right? And then as Maggie comes running, is how the offense described it. She hears her son, because, and I had just been talking about this with a friend of mine this morning. I was like, if you hear your child shot, you wouldn't run away, right? You wouldn't run away. Leslie, I do too. I keep waiting for Alec to stand up and been like, I did it. Can we just stop this? This is over. This is over. Maggie runs over, and it appears that Maggie was shot, went forward, because she was shot 4 or 5 times, and that her leg, the back of her leg, fell into the Polaris, which we knew Alec was driving that evening. yes, there will be a rebuttal tomorrow. Will be the defense will have a chance to talk. Why are they focusing that they died at 9:07 when Alec didn't get back from his mom's until 10:07? So they have never said that they died at 9:07. The argument is that they died at 8:49. That's the argument, not 9:07. At 9:07, his car pulled out. At 8:49 is when their phones locked or went dark for the last time. Okay, now, we know that Maggie called Paul a little detective in reference to Alec taking pills, but when Alec was questioned, he also called Paul a little detective. Because I was thinking, like, what could have happened that night to spawn all this? Did they get in an argument about pills? Did Maggie and Paul say, forget you, we're going down to the kennels? And he came down there. Paul was shot, his arms were down. They were family weapons. That was huge for me today, of hearing that really detailed explained. And here's what he said. So we hear from, there was a weapon that was stolen in 2018. It's called a replacement blackout. It was missing. When they first asked Alec, did you replace it? Oh, I don't know. Well, finally he admitted that they did. Will, a good friend of Paul's, said that they cited, is that how you say it? They cited a gun in April of 2021. He told them exactly, we were sitting on this porch and we shot right back here where we were building a pond. Well, Jeff Krupp went back and found weathered cases exactly where Will said they had been shooting. They were called S&B 147 blackouts. They also found empty boxes. 6 cases were found around Maggie's body were from the exact same firearm that had shot into that field that Will had told that he and Paul had shot, and across the street they had like a shooting house. So we know that at least some of them, Maggie was shot by that weapon that has not been seen. So just in case you're wondering, I think he's guilty, and I think he will be found guilty after today. Now, tomorrow night, I might be like, no, he's not. But today I am. That was huge for me, because in the offense said this. So we have to believe, well, we're going to get to that. We're not there yet. If I were the prosecution at the end, I would have said, wonder what Paul said before the last shot. Oh. Well, I think Maggie wanted to sell everything. Who knows? Hid weapons at his parents' house. I have no idea. So we know the 6 cases found around Maggie came from the exact same gun. We know that, and then they went through all these other guns, which I didn't really get me. Like, Maggie's blood was on one gun, but that was the gun that Alec had taken down there that he'd gone to get from the house. Like, there wasn't anything amazing. CNN is on. Well, go watch CNN, because I'm sure they're actually a little more skilled than me. But here you get a snoring dog in a pretend gas fire with a giant water buffalo. CNN is focused on the family guns and the blue raincoat. So today we hear that actually wasn't a tarp that Shelley had seen at the house. After his dad dies, he shows up with this big blue tarp. Well, today the offense said, no, that was a giant blue raincoat, not a tarp. Nope. So then he moves into the timeline. Now, I did this timeline the other night, but I was so excited to hear the offense doing the timeline like me, do you think we will have a verdict this week? I hope so, because next week I have a work priority. Deer Valley is hosting our family for a ski trip. So there will be no trial next week. It is all about the wonderfulness of Deer Valley, where I have never been. And I was a ski instructor in Aspen, in case anybody's wondering about my skiing ability. But as my children like to say, I taught small children who basically threw skis at me. I'm like into kind of green slopes. But I really like après ski, which involves chicken wings and yummy drinks and sitting by the slopes. Okay, anyway, I digress. So I hope it's done by then, because it's going to be really hard for me to fulfill my obligations to Deer Valley as a content writer and watch the trial at the same time. Now, let's go through the timeline. Please pronounce the names correctly, said Melanie. Nancy Grace. What names? Paul Paul? Mags? Ro? Bus? It's Alec. That's how you pronounce it. Nancy Grace is calling him Alex. She might think it's pronounced Alex, but I'm from the Carolinas. It's Alec. Trust me. I got you. You got this. 6:42. Alec arrives at Moselle. 7:04. Paul arrives at Moselle. They walk the property from 7:15 to 7:56. At 8:08, Paul goes up to Moselle. At 8:09 to 9:02, Alec's phone is not working. Now, this is important. Remember this, 8:09 to 9:02. 8:14 to 8:35, somebody's eating some dinner. Maggie gets there at 8:17. So Maggie arrives at 8:17. Her cell phone disconnects from her car. And at 8:30, she and Paul are walking to the kennel. So in 13 minutes, she had the housekeeper make dinner. She came in and ate and left with Paul. So this is what I think happened. And nobody has said this. You're hearing it first. I think they got in a squabble. 13-minute dinner? No way. No. 8:17, she arrives. At 8:30, she's going to the kennel. They're at the kennel from 8:38 to 8:44. Now, the whole time they're at the kennel, Paul is on his phone. He's sending Snapchats. He's calling his friend. He's, his friend's saying, FaceTime me. He tries to FaceTime me. And then he says, well, that's not working, so let's send me a video. So Paul takes this video of the dog and the tail, and the video never gets sent. They're in the middle of a conversation. This is one of your best friends. I'm talking to you. I'm going to take a video and I'm going to send it to you. And you go dark. So at 8:44, he tries to FaceTime. At 8:45, he records the video. That has Alec on it. Now, I want you to fast forward to August 11th, when Alec is sitting in a room and they're asking him about that night. And they said, what would you say if somebody said you were there that night? And Alec says, well, I heard Rogan say he thought he heard me. And this is his quote. I'd be surprised if that were the case. Not if my times were right. I'd be surprised if that were the case. Not if my times were right. That's August 11th of 2021. No, the video was never sent, Robin. They clarified that today. The video was never sent. The video was not sent. It was on Paul's phone, but never sent to Roro. So we didn't know about that video until April of 22, which is when Paul's phone was unlocked. Now, get with me here. That night, Alex says the phone of Paul's pops out of his pocket. He goes to pick up Paul by his belt loop. Paul has brain matter on the sidewalk, but he wants to turn Paul over, and the phone pops out because he picks up his son with no brain by his belt loop. He is the murderer. All of this today, it's done for me. Circumstantial evidence has the exact same weight according to the law. Circumstantial or direct evidence is no different. No different. Bingo. So we don't have the actual video until April of 22. So nobody knew. But you know one thing we did know that night? Well, we're going to get to that. We're not there yet. We're staying on the offense's line. Yes, it's terrible, Ellen. Yes, it is terrible. Absolutely terrible. So at 8:45 is the video. Okay? 8:45 is the video where we hear Alec on the video. 8:45, he's on the video. So at that point we hear, oh, the dog's got a chicken in his mouth. Alec says, oh, I get the chicken out of his mouth. So the kennel video, 8:45 and 45 seconds. So let's give him a minute to get the chicken out. That puts him at 8:46. They were arguing. This is when Alec the other day was arguing about, was it 75 seconds or 60 seconds? So at 8:45 and 45 seconds, the kennel video ends. Give him a minute for the chicken. That would be 8:46 and 45 seconds. A 2-minute golf cart ride, that would be 8:48 and 45 seconds. At 8:49 and 1 second, Paul's phone locks. Maggie's phone locks 30 seconds later. He gets to the house. He hauls ass in the house at 8:49 in 15 seconds. If he runs in a full sprint for 20 seconds, he gets into the house and falls asleep and can't hear gunshots? Waters said this. I thought this was really amazing. Murdaugh is selling a story that he went to the kennels quickly, returned for the quickest nap in the history of the South, and 2 random 5'2" vigilantes showed up in the 3 minutes that he wasn't there, 8:49 to 9:02, to slaughter his family. If you believe that happened, then he should be innocent. If your child died like that, you would try so hard to pick him up. No. There are things that make sense. If someone is dead on their stomach and their brain is out of their head, I could see that you might pick them up and embrace them and grab them and hug them. Would you lean over carefully so that you could explain why there was no blood on you later and pick them up by their belt loop to flip them over? No, you couldn't. No, you couldn't. Because you can't flip up somebody from a belt loop that weighs 180 pounds. No, Maggie and Paul their phones were together when they were walking down there. So we know that. We know that. This is 1,700 acres in the middle of fricking nowhere. Alex said himself, there was nobody there. The dogs were fine. It was like he was scared to say, if I were him and I were lying, I would be like, I thought maybe I heard somebody in the woods. But then I guess he would have looked evil for leaving. But he was like, the dogs were not alerting. No one was there. No. No. I think, and they didn't say this, maybe the offense can only say so much, that they can't, because whatever he says, just go with me here. If he said they had a fight, then the defense could be like, they didn't have a fight. I never fought. I love Mags. We loved her. Every night I wanted her to stay with me, even though that night she didn't want to stay with me, and I wanted her to stay with me. But then I wasn't going to spend any time with her. She got there at, Mags got there at 8:17, and at 8:30, she goes to the kennels where Alec doesn't want to go, but then he feels pressure, he says, because now we know he's been down there, and he goes down there for 5 seconds, and then he leaves and goes to see his mother, which is nice. But why was he begging Maggie to come home? They weren't watching a movie. They weren't having a leisurely meal. They weren't spending any time together. He didn't take her with him. He wanted her home to kill her. It's done for me. It's done. He knew Paul was making that video. He tried to get Paul's phone to erase that freaking video. And he did not have the code to it. He picks up the phone. He puts the phone back in his pocket. And he said tonight, when they were talking about the phone, he said, what did he say? I know. This is on June 8th at 1:21 a.m. June 8th, 1:21 a.m. So he found him, called the police at, we hadn't even gotten to that part, 10 something. This is 3 hours later. He's talking about how much he was calling Maggie. He was calling Maggie. He was calling Maggie because he's setting up this alibi. I called her just before and she didn't answer. When did you see her last? Did you see her here? I believe that. This is when he starts using this bizarre speech that he has that no one else in his family says D's for the. He does not have a dat. I believe dat. I don't know where they were. Very weird what he's doing. Again, I think he's playing to the jury. He talks about the phone popping out of the pocket. Yeah, I did not try to open it or anything. I had it in my mind not to mess anything up. That's a quote. Yeah. You picked up the phone? Yeah, I did not try to open it or anything. I had it in my mind not to mess anything up. Of course he did. Of course he did. Of course he did. He was going to delete the darn video. Oh yeah, we're going to get to that. Colin Rogan. He was going to delete the video. He couldn't get into the phone. That phone couldn't be opened until April of 2022. So it was almost a year. Almost a year. And as the offense said, they didn't say that, but they said there's a new story to fit the facts. He has to come up with these new stories. And do you remember that night when he said, do you remember that night when he said, and nobody knew, I did you so bad? And then there was this argument of they did you so bad. I think he was saying, I did you so bad because he didn't mean to shoot Paul in the head. And that's why the defense wanted to say, oh, he shot Paul execution style. Basically, what father could do that? No. He thought when he shot Paul, he shot him in the chest and Paul was going to be dead. But Paul didn't die. He thought that buckshot would work and it didn't. So when Paul fell down, Alec thinks, oh my gosh, this gun didn't work. I got to use this other gun. I did you so bad. And as he tells Maggie's sister, when she says, what do you think happened? And he said, I don't know, but I think whoever did this had been thinking about it for a long time. Wonder why he took Maggie's phone and not Paul's. I don't know. That's an interesting thing to think about. I don't know. I think it was because he was trying to make it look like there were two shooters. So if he took the phone and left one phone, that seems more like something two people would do. That's what I think. We talk about Maggie having the mark on her leg from the Polaris. Now, as they're talking about this today, this whole, these minutes and what happened, Alec is not crying. I think Alec has cried all he can cry, and he is not crying. This is the part where you would have been crying. The offense says Maggie comes running to Paul, and there's 5 shots. No activity on Alec's phone until 9:02. They show photographs of all the water at the dog kennels. So if you had missed this part for me, yeah, Melissa said that sealed the deal, the sister-in-law's testimony. And the sister-in-law saying Maggie did not want to go to Moselle. You know, you hear Alec saying, we had a wonderful marriage, and I always wanted her with me. Every time I talked to her, I said, I want you with me. Gag. Gross. Who says that? That's annoying. What do you mean I always want you with me? Then why did she tell her sister, ugh, I don't want to go. I just want to stay at Edisto. Her sister doesn't have a reason to lie. Do you think it helps her sister to think that this man she trusted and called her brother-in-law killed her sister and her son, her nephew? No, nobody wants to believe that about their family. Nobody. There are all these pictures of water at the dog kennels. When the man left that afternoon at 3:30, he said, I wound up the hose a certain way. It was not like that when I came back. And there would have been no water. There was no water when I left. Where did all this water come from? Creighton Waters says, well, he was washing off. That's what he was doing. He was washing off. He was doing a quick wash off. So now we get into this time frame, this 9:02 to 9:06. And at that point, hi, Ashlyn. Ashlyn came on my subscriber video last night, and she was awesome. Adult with disabilities, talking to us about life. It's really good. 9:02 to 9:06, Alec takes 283 steps. He's making calls like crazy, which is what the offense says. He calls Maggie. He calls Randolph. He calls Maggie again. And the offense says, is he manufacturing an alibi? He's got to compress these timelines. At 9:05, he calls Maggie again. And at the exact same time, Maggie's phone turns. So what is this, like, little person vigilante just picked up her phone at the same time that he calls it, after they've used their family weapons to kill them? We don't know about the blue shirt. Maggie's phone. Alex Pessa's where Maggie's phone goes. Now, I did this little phone test today. So I took the phone, which is testimony we heard, I think, yesterday, and I shook the phone. So, and I was showing this to my attorney husband. When you pick up the phone softly, do this on your iPhone. If you pick up your phone gently, it turns on when it's off. If you pick it up to throw it, it does not turn on. So it did not turn on when it was thrown, which was their argument. Well, it had to have been, it should have turned on if he threw it. No, it doesn't. Thomas, they all hear you. He's hiding. He's eating dinner. At 9:52, and I had heard this the other day, Alec has called Chris Wilson. He's called Maggie. He's texted Maggie. He's called Paul. He's driving 74. He's driving 80. He calls Chris Wilson, says, hey, yo, call me back. Chris Wilson calls him. Chris Wilson said, well, he didn't really have anything to say to me, but he says, Alec says, oh, I got to go. Well, why did you call me and just tell me to call you? He says that night, hey, look at my phone. I was calling lots of people, even though these call logs are deleted. The call logs are deleted. He gets to the house at 10:05, drives to the kennels at 10:07, gets there at 10:06 and 14 seconds. In statements, he went in great detail. He got out of the car to check Paul and Maggie and then called 911. 19 seconds. He only had 19 seconds to have gotten out of the car, turned over Paul, put the phone back in the pocket, check Maggie, and call 911. So you've just stumbled upon your family in 19 seconds and you call 911 that quickly? Most crime victims will tell you it could have been 2 minutes. 19 seconds. 19 seconds. Well, Alec realizes that that was a bad lie. So then he's like, oh, no. I actually didn't check him until after the 911 call. Even though he had told his law partners, 911, and that evening about that. Now, at 10:17, he calls Randy. This is after the 911 call. Then he calls Rogan again. 10:24, 10:25, 10:29, and 10:30. He calls Rogan. I wish somebody bring me some water. Why does he call who he calls Roro that many times, and he hasn't even called his own son? Why is he calling him? I think, and the offense made this case, was he calling to see what Roro knew? Did he want to know? Did Roro get a video from him? Did he hear me on the phone? Did he hear me on the kennels? My husband will come on and do a video with our subscribers once everybody has talked, and he says he's had time to look. He says in his own trial right now. He said he works a day job and he can't watch the trial. What's Rogan got to do with it? Right. Well, Rogan is the one that Paul was texting with and video with and FaceTiming with right before they were murdered. That's what Roro's got to do with it. He calls Randy. He calls Rogan. He calls Rogan 1017, 1024, 1025, 1029, 1030. And this is a boy, he said, I felt like he was my son, and he lived next door to us, and we were keeping his dog, but I didn't know where he was. Well, they were keeping his dog because he wasn't there. He was calling Rogan because he wanted to see what in the devil he was doing. He called him before Buster 6 times. And he hadn't called his own son yet? No. No way, Jose. No way. They kind of went through today on that 1:21 a.m. June 8th discussion in the police car. The police officer says, hey, I need to ask you some questions. Alex says, I understand. You don't have to explain anything to me. He clearly does not seem like he is scared of police, or he doesn't appear to be paranoid. He's not fidgety like somebody that's high. He appears to be pretty coherent in my mind. Yes, the police released the scene. They gave John Marvin permission to clean up the scene. I don't think John Marvin was, I think he was doing fine then. He's saying again, I called her just before I left and she didn't answer. I did not try to open the phone or anything. I had in my mind not to mess it up. On August 11th, they start saying, what happened that night? I don't know exactly how it went. I stayed on the couch and I dozed off. And they are saying to him on August 11th, hey, there's a video about Rogan is an officer. No, Rogan is not an officer. Rogan is a good friend of his child's. He's not an officer. Roro cannot get to the property before most because Roro was out of town. That's why Paul was keeping Roro's dog. All right, if only those dogs could talk. So on August 11th, they have, they present him with the Snapchat video. Now at the time, remember, they still do not have the video of him at the kennels. But they do have the Snapchat video that Paul sent that afternoon. And they say, that afternoon, we saw you on a Snapchat video. And you're messing around with a tree. And he says, I don't remember playing with a tree. And he's clearly shaking a tree. Now again, this is the last afternoon you have spent with your son. The last day you will ever see him again. And you're telling me you don't remember what you did? But you were crying and we rode around and we were talking about everything and we were doing this and we were doing that and Who thinks to call a bunch of people when your wife and son are murdered? It's not normal. I don't think it is either. Are you a lawyer? In my own mind, I am. No, I'm not. I wish I were. My husband is a lawyer, but he doesn't think I'd be a good one. I don't remember playing with a tree. So then they say to him, well, you have on a blue shirt and khakis. When did you change your clothes? So he didn't know the Snapchat video existed. So this is a problem because the officer says, now you gave me your clothes that night, right? got home from work, changed his clothes. He gave the clothes. There's no blood on them. When did you change your clothes is the question. It's a really good question. I'm not sure. It would have been, what time of day was that? What time of day was that? I would have thought I already changed. So in August 11th, he can't remember. But on the stand, just a few days ago, I came in, we rode around on the farm, I went right in the house, I took a shower, Maggie walked in after my shower. You've never heard such detail. I mean, detail. He couldn't remember that night, but now he remembers that. I remember that my phone fell down in between the console. What is the last thing you said to Maggie? I don't remember. So you don't remember the last thing you said to your wife? I do remember. Well, then tell me. Well, I don't remember exactly. He can't think of a lie that would make sense. So he would lie if he thought there was a lie that was safe. I told her I loved her. Did you normally say that? Now I got to think, do I normally say that? He can't, when you tell one lie, it grows into 100 lies. And he said that in the beginning. Something about when you lie, deceive, something. My mother always said that to me. Yes, baby talk. Thank you. Somebody just said a comment that I really want to read. Terry, my son was killed in a car accident. The night before he was killed, he spent the evening with my husband and I and his little boy. I remember every detail of my last night with my son. Totally agree, Terry. Absolutely agree. These are not things that you forget. They're just not. A lot of us have lost somebody in a hard way. And if it's somebody super close to you, you do remember. You remember. Yeah, I practice big Tanda law. Same thing. So this is really interesting. August 11th, we have information that you were in the background of a video. Now, they do not have the video, remember. Paul's phone is locked. And Alex says this. I asked Rogan about that video, and he said he thought it was me. So now he is telling us he had asked Rogan about that video. He knew that video existed. He asked Rogan. And they said, well, was it you? And he said, at 9 o'clock? Not if my times were right. Not if my times were right. So he was still denying it then because the video wasn't out. So it was going to be his word against Rogan. They said, do you know who else it could have been? He said, no, I don't have any idea. I don't have any idea. Rogan must be a liar at this point. Paul was shot in the feed room. His arms were down, no defensive wounds. There was a pellet lodged in the doorframe above his head. And the defense said that that pellet had ricocheted off something else, had gone through Paul like this. Here's what the defense said. I mean, this is the dumbest thing I have ever heard in my life. And I'm no genius. They said that he was shot here. The bullet ricochets through his head, goes down, hits his shoulder, and then pings back up and hits the door. No. Yes, he made no effort to find the killers. No, he did not. No effort. He did a reward and put a time limit on it. No. Maggie shot at close range. The woman that we heard, Dr. Reamer, who they were arguing with, she's the one that did Maggie's autopsy. She said the entrance wound was into the head. She knew. She knew. Both of them were homicides. Your Alex voice is cracking me up. I mean, I day and I saw them there and I didn't know, and Paw Paw and Mags and Bus and Row. That is the biggest bunch of diarrhea that I have ever. Using those nicknames is, I am so guilty. I will do anything because I am smarter than you fools. And I'm going to talk like this, and I'm going to talk like that, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to call them by these nicknames, even though I never called them by the nicknames before. No. He was facing complete financial ruin. He had the motive, the means, the opportunity, and ample evidence. And the motive part, I think, is the hardest part for me because it bought him time. That's all it did. It bought him some time. And it did buy him time. It got him out of some trouble for a while. And then when he got in trouble again, he pretended to shoot himself. Yes, and Deborah, they did say that. They said, are you concerned about Buster after he was shot, the pretend shooting? And he said, no, I'm not. He was not concerned about Buster. And the reason he was not concerned with Buster is because he knew he was the shooter. But why did he do it? To save his own ass. To save his own, sorry, I shouldn't cuss. Can you take on a new trial? No, I cannot become the Nancy Grace of trials. I blog about autism and, taking shots for being obese and being wrinkled and how Botox made my eyes look like this one time. I'm just a normal person, like Steve Martin and Father of the Bride. I'm normal people. I'm not Picasso. I can't have a baby at 70. I'm just normal. I'm not a trial person. Now, I tell you whose trial I will do. But it won't, not as many people will be interested in it, but I'm going to give it my time and attention, and I'll actually go to this trial, is for the murder of Hanya Aguilar from Lumberton, North Carolina, and his name is Michael McClellan, and his trial will be this fall, and I will be there for that trial. I will be there. Buster killed Stephen Smith and Dad holding it over him. Perhaps. I don't think you're all wrong. Would have asked him where the clothes were. I think the clothing conversation is just going to a place that nobody can answer. So at that point, then it just becomes, I think it's almost actually sort of nice to me that we don't have to hear this excuse about where all these freaking clothes are, what he calls the dress shirt. That's a Columbia shirt. Do you think Paul knew or saw his father shooting him? Yeah, I do. I think his dad was walking around with a gun and he didn't know he was going to shoot at him. You might become a subscriber because I'm good at it. Ooh, okay, well, come on over. My fat person medicine. It's Wegovy. It was Saxenda, and then I switched to Wegovy. What will you do with your time when this trial is over? We're going to exercise. That's what we're going to do. You will join me at Hanya's trial. Her mom will not sit along. No, she won't. I'm worried there will be at least one juror who will not find guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. I don't know. I tell you what, circumstantial evidence counts the same. Who else could have done it? 3 minutes. 2 people, 5'2" come out of the woods and use guns missing, that the family's 2 favorite guns are missing, and shoot them with them. And then they stay there, at least one of them, with Maggie's phone. And when he calls it 17 minutes later, the same time he calls it, it turns on. No. It's not possible. It's not possible. Oh, yay, Vicky. Is it possible that Alec and Paul had been fighting or arguing when they took that ride around the property? Yeah, it's possible. I think Alec tells the story. Oh, it was wonderful. We rode around and we just talked, and it was beautiful. I loved it. Well, what if Paul was like, Dad, Mom's leaving you and we're going with her. We're not going to have you doing this anymore. Why are we negative $347,000 in our checking account? I mean, who knows? These pills, whatever. Yeah. I'm convinced. I can't imagine what I would have to hear tomorrow. They would have to march in 2 Oompa Loompas and say they've just confessed and hear the guns for me to believe that. Why did Maggie go to the kennels last night? Maggie loved the dogs, evidently. I mean, I love dogs too, but I don't know about me going to any kennels at night. We don't have, hunting dogs. If you want to subscribe, I have the subscriber thing pinned right up there. Just so when people ask me, it's just there in case. Alec was mad. Maggie and Paul were discussing finding the pills. And I thought it was interesting that Bus said he didn't know much about the pill problem. Okay. Have y'all ever been in a family where I have 2 teenage sons? If one knows something, the other one knows it. One is not just like out, clueless. Yes, he did say that, Katie. He sure did. He sure did. Anyway, tomorrow, subscribers, see you in the morning before court starts. I think this is a day we're going to have a little chit chat. And then we will get going. And then I hope tomorrow night will be, what if they do the verdict? I might have to do this like a lunchtime thing. I mean, something big. I have a work trip I'm leaving on Friday afternoon. I got crap to do. I can't keep doing this. Who else would ever want to kill Maggie? No one. No one. Thank you.